Welcome back. You're watching WION World is One. This is Speed News. Let's get started. Israel has launched fresh military strikes against Hamas in Gaza. According to reports, hundreds have been killed so far, and this comes after Israel's Prime Minister's office said that it had instructed the army to strike Hamas across Gaza. The statement added that the new strikes were due to Hamas' repeated refusals to release hostages and the rejection of all offers received from US envoy Steve Witkoff and other mediators. As Israel resumed its military strikes, explosions were heard over Gaza City. Schools in Israeli towns bordering Gaza have been closed amidst the resumption of hostilities. Ambulances were seen racing out of Nasser Hospital in Gaza's Khan Yunis. Days after the US launched a series of airstrikes on the Houthis in Yemen, Houthis have claimed to have carried out a third strike on US aircraft carrier Harry Truman within 48 hours. Meanwhile, in a press briefing, the Pentagon said there have been dozens of military casualties in Yemen so far. Pentagon's chief spokesman Sean Parnell said the US will carry out unrelenting strikes to degrade Houthis' capabilities to attack ships in the Red Sea. Detailing the targets of US strikes, Joint Staff Director for Operations Lieutenant General Alex Grinkovich said the initial strikes targeted terrorist training sites, unmanned aerial vehicle infrastructure, weapons manufacturing and storage facilities. The US CENTCOM released videos showing US fighter jets taking off from an undisclosed location to launch fresh strikes. Yemen's Houthi leader Abdul Malik al-Houthi has warned that it would confront US aggression by targeting aircraft carriers. Fresh American strikes in Yemen led to a massive fire at the Houthi government complex in Yemen's Al-Jawf. Videos released by the Houthi media showed massive fires engulfing the building. Houthi media also reported fresh strikes in the Hodeidah and Al-Salif regions. A video released by the Houthis showed a damaged steel factory in Hodeidah that came under attack.
We're going to have a very important call. You know, we've had calls, but we're getting down to a very critical stage. And we want to get the whole Russia-Ukraine thing done.
Trump and Putin are set to speak over a phone call today to discuss ending the war in Ukraine. Trump says many elements of a peace agreement have already been agreed upon with Putin. The talks come after Trump's envoy met Vladimir Putin in Moscow recently, but Trump's proposal to divide certain assets raises eyebrows in Ukraine and Europe. His approach suggests a negotiation that could reshape Ukraine's borders, something Kiev has firmly opposed. Donald Trump said that his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping would visit the US soon, and this as trade tensions soared between the world's two largest economies. Last week, reports emerged that Washington and Beijing were planning a summit by the end of April after tariffs on all steel and aluminium imports to China took effect on the 12th of March. Trump said that he has great respect for Xi Jinping. Xi and Trump had spoken over phone in January ahead of Trump's swearing in and had agreed to establish strategic communication channels and maintain regular contact on major issues of common concern. US President Trump revokes security service detail for former President Joe Biden's children. In a post on social media, he said that Secret Service protection to Hunter and Ashley Biden was being withdrawn immediately. Biden had extended their protection till July, shortly before leaving office in January. Under US law, former presidents and their spouses receive lifelong Secret Service protection under federal law, but the protection afforded to their immediate families over the age of 16 ends when they leave office. After an arduous wait of over 9 months, astronauts Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore are finally headed home. The Crew 9 spacecraft undocked successfully for the International Space Station from the ISS earlier today. Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore were stuck aboard the ISS since June of last year after the Boeing Starliner spacecraft suffered propulsion issues and was deemed unfit to fly them back to Earth. Their ocean splashdown off the Florida coast is expected to happen tomorrow on the 19th of March. SpaceX capsule delivered 4 astronauts to the International Space Station, ISS, early on Sunday in a NASA crew swap mission to allow the pair of stuck astronauts, Wilmore and Williams, to return home after 9 months on the orbiting lab. Taiwan's defense ministry claims to have detected 59 Chinese aircraft around the island, the highest tally since a record number in October last year. Along with the 59 aircraft, Taiwan's defense ministry says it detected 9 Chinese warships and 2 balloons. The development comes just days after Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te called China a foreign hostile force. Justifying its action, China said its actions were a response to external forces' willful connivance and support for Taiwan's independence, warning the Taiwan independence separatist forces. Pakistan claims its security forces killed 3 militants in an intelligence-based operation in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. In a statement, the Inter-Services Public Relations (ISPR) said the operation was conducted in the Tor Darra area of Khyber district on the reported presence of militants. The ISPR further said that during the operation, 3 militants were killed, adding that the killed militants were involved in numerous activities in the area. Prime Minister Modi met the US Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Gabbard is on a 2.5-day visit to India as part of a multi-nation tour. This will mark the conclusion of her Asia tour, which also included visits to Japan and Thailand. During their meeting, Prime Minister Modi and DNI Gabbard discussed ways to enhance cooperation to tackle threats like terrorism and cybersecurity, and set the tone and vision for a stronger India-US partnership. Modi also presented the US Intel chief with gifts. Gabbard's meeting with Modi came after her meeting with Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, who raised concerns over activities of the Khalistani separatist group 6 for Justice in the US. Clashes erupted in Nagpur in the Indian state of Maharashtra over call by certain fringe outfits to remove the tomb of Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, whose resting place is Huldabad. A curfew has been imposed in several parts of Nagpur city and surrounding areas amid the rising tensions. The restrictions were put in place after around 250 members of the Vishwa Hindu Parishad and Bajrang Dal gathered near the Shivaji Maharaj statue in Mahal area to support removal of Aurangzeb's grave. Later, another group of around 100 people gathered in Bhaldarpura area, creating tensions and disrupting law and order. Violence then erupted in Nagpur's Hansapuri area with unidentified masked men vandalizing shops, torching vehicles and even pelting stones. Chief Minister Fadnavis has appealed for calm and has assured of action against those trying to disturb. In a crackdown on illegal gold smuggling, the Gujarat Anti-Terrorism Squad and the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence jointly conducted a raid in Ahmedabad's Paldi area, seizing approximately 90 to 100 kilograms of gold from a broker's residence. Additionally, cash amounting to 60 to 70 lakh rupees has also been seized. Authorities have yet to determine the exact source of the gold and further investigations are underway. The ATS and DRI are examining potential links to gold smuggling network and financial irregularities. At least 7 people were killed after a small plane skidded into the sea while taking off from the Honduran island of Roatan. According to authorities, at least 10 people were pulled out from the wreckage alive. Eyewitness video from the National Police showed officers and other rescue workers carrying survivors onto a rocky coastline, some in stretchers, as a nearby boat shone a bright light into the darkness. Rescue operations are currently underway. At least 42 people have been killed after multiple tornadoes, wildfires and dust storms wreaked havoc across the U.S. In Alabama, a school bus smashed on the side of a destroyed high school building. In Georgia, at least 15 homes sustained significant damage from trees, while over 30,000 homes lost power at the peak of the storm, and many businesses suffered severe damages. An incident of an acid spill at a Chinese-owned mine has reportedly led to the contamination of a major river in Zambia. Environmentalists are fearing that millions could be impacted from the contamination. The spill took place in February 18th when a tailing dam containing acidic waste from a copper mine collapsed, polluting over 100 kilometers of downstream. Environmentalists are calling it a disaster with catastrophic consequences and blamed the Chinese-owned mine for it. The collapse allowed some 50 million liters of waste containing concentrated acid, dissolved solids and heavy metals to flow into a stream that links to the Kafu River. In the aftermath of the disaster, piles of dead fish were found along the riverbank. The incident also caused damage to maize and groundnut fields of local communities. The Zambian government deployed the Air Force to drop hundreds of tons of lime into the river to counteract the acid and roll back. About 60% of Zambia's 20 million people live in the Kafu River basin. Oil prices ticked up in early trade and was mostly supported by instability in West Asia as well as China's stimulus plans and data. Although global growth concerns, US tariffs and Russia-Ukraine ceasefire talks curbed gains, crude oil throughout in China, the world's biggest crude importer, rose 2.1% in January and February from a year earlier. And that was supported by a new refinery and holiday travel. Prices are also gained. They also gained support from Donald Trump's vow to continue the US assault on Yemen's Houthis and end their attacks on ships in the Red Sea. The US dollar wallowed near a 5-month trough against the euro and other major peers as investors grapple with the potential economic impact of growing global trade tensions. Fears that US President Trump's aggressive tariff policies could trigger a broader economic slowdown has undermined the greenback amid a strong SOCI sentiment surveys. The dollar index, which measures the currency against 6 key rivals, has dropped around 6%. Markets are also awaiting commentary from the Fed on US rate path for the next 25 years. While it is expected to keep rates unchanged in its March policy meeting. Gold prices scaled a record peak above the crucial $3,000 mark for the second time within a week, as investors sought cover from economic concerns. Historically considered a hedge against geopolitical instability, gold has risen more than 14% so far this year. Since Trump took office in January, gold has hit a record high 14 times as trade tensions have boosted safe haven demand. Other precious metals are also trading higher as forecasters have marked down the expectations for US growth this year, raised concerns about a potential recession and expect increased inflation. Hong Kong shares rose to 3-year highs and led Asian markets higher on Tuesday as investors turned positive on the outlook for the world's second biggest economy and cheered recent data and promises to further support consumption. China has been an unlikely winner of Trump's burst of tariffs and cuts to government spending in his first 2 months in office as fears of a US slowdown turn investors abroad. Hong Kong and Chinese stocks are up almost 25% in 2025, while US stocks are down close to 10%. Just days ahead of its presidential election, the International Olympic Committee Executive Board has recommended that boxing should be included at the 2028 Games in Los Angeles. The decision still needs to be rubber-stamped of about 100 members later this week, but that is expected to be a formality. The sport was not part of the initial program when it was announced in 2022, but last month, world boxing was given provisional recognition.